All right, so it is 11 a.m. here at my time in Trinidad and Tobago. And so we are very happy to do this, our second live stream, as we lead up to Governance Week 2024, which we expect to be an exceptional experience for everyone who chooses to join us, because we have an amazing lineup of speakers. So part of preparation and leading up to Governance Week, we have this live series, which we began yesterday with Cecile Watson from Jamaica. And today we have an equally amazing woman, Gail Figaro, who is from here in Trinidad and Tobago. And so, Gail, we are very happy to welcome you. Gail is going to be a first-time speaker with us as well for Governance Week this year. But Gail is someone I also had found on LinkedIn, and I'm so impressed by a lot of what she has to share. So I wanted to also bring her into the conversation with us. So, Gail, welcome to Governance Live.
Thank you so much, Kamla, and thank you for affording me the opportunity to have the platform to have the conversation with you.
Sure. So let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your interest in corporate governance in particular.
Okay, sure. So in summary, I have over close to 25 years experience in various fields of business across several industries: oil and gas, maritime, ITC, banking, business, general industry. I have served in multiple roles, being everything from a regional director to AVP to management. Of course, didn't start there, but journeyed up and onwards. I think that having that journey across those multiple industries and beyond industries across the Caribbean, because I was fortunate to have roles that took me to Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, etc. So I was able to have an appreciation for the business world within our Caribbean space, and obviously through vendors and suppliers in North America and beyond. I think what started to occur to me, because a lot of my professional life was spent in the occupational health and safety space, but I was able to be supported and mentored into much more positions that actually feed into that. And at the base of it all is governance. I think what occurred to me when I decided to become a organizational and business psychologist and get certified in change management and auditing and enterprise risk management, et cetera, et cetera. That was the one common thread throughout each of those disciplines. Really and truly, there's no way you can escape governance, and I saw no reason for us to silo governance the way we were doing.
Yeah.
So I try, when I have the opportunity like this to speak or to consult, to create a space for the conversation so that those seemingly separate threads can be woven together into a tapestry that makes sense
Mhm.
for governance to work and be resilient and robust and authentic. So in
Yeah.
summary, yeah.
But and I really like that, because I actually see it in your posts, the way you were able to highlight the importance of the relationships and the connection between what is done in organizations and the overall direction in which it's going and who leads it. That it's not everyone takes the time to actually see those connections. I love that word that if you have used, the tapestry
Yeah.
that must come together for the specific outcome that we want.
Yeah, I think the thing about governance, and it's a place that, I think as a society, we have to journey towards. I'm not saying that some people aren't doing it really great and they're exemplars in the field. I'm not taking away from them. But I think overall, if we are to step back and be honest as a collective, we have quite a journey to do to stop speaking about it and start being about it. It is very easy to talk about governance and have something about it on your plaque, on the wall, and to have it, in your company's dossier and all of that good stuff. But the thing is, what I've learned in my journey is that you see the true culture of an organization when crisis happens.
Yes.
when crisis happens, the mask shifts. And you see who panics, you see who's scrambling to now pull in a consultant to create documents that they should have had and been practicing with all along. Once you find yourself experiencing anything along that space of a reality, you need to step back and pause and
Yes.
understand the power of a pause and be like, there are things in this journey I am not doing right in my role. And that's okay. It's okay to say that there is a gap. It's when you deny that gap, when you try to cover that gap, when you try to create an illusion that all is well, that's when we run into problems. That's when you're making a break from good governance.
Yes. And I like exactly what you have said. In times of crisis, you see the true colors.
Oh,
The
yeah.
mask is
Oh,
removed.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important for us to pay attention to as well and prevent the crisis being what reveals the problems underneath.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think we need to, again, sometimes people set such utopic expectations for board members and for leaders, right? Your leaders are human too. They are fallible as well. There
Yeah.
will be missteps. Okay. We can't avoid that. What we're hoping is that the missteps aren't going to be detrimental to the stakeholders and to the organization, right? So anyone who starts a journey in leadership and wants to create this illusion of perfection, you're setting yourself up to be tempted to misrepresent and to twist and mutate the concept of governance to suit that unrealistic goal that you have set. So I think first we need to accept, if I step into the role of leadership, if you step into the role of leadership, there will be times when you drop the ball. What governance does is that it allows us that space that if an error does occur, there are processes, programs, policies, and systems to catch us when we fall, to make sure that the fallout is minimum, and to allow for authentic ownership of accountability and learning and evolution. That is what happens. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake. It's how you show up
Yes.
when the error has occurred, when the issue has, become public knowledge. That is what counts. That is what counts.
Yes, and that is so profound, and it actually kind of encapsulates something that is an underlying theme in a lot of what you share in your posts on social media. So this notion of a collective responsibility to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And
So,
therefore, you are saying, even at the governance level, we are human. We can fail from time to time. We will stumble. But the notion of what drives our decision making should be should be guided by this collective responsibility, not to take care of number one first, but a collective responsibility to take care of each other.
that is at the core of it. That is what I stand for. Um, I think that there is a disassociation from for what leadership means. We need to journey to a place where we understand and we accept that you being appointed a leader, a senior manager, an executive, a board member, it it isn't about the fact that you now have an impressive title. It isn't about the perks that come with it. It isn't about the doors that get opened because of that. It's what it is you've been gifted the burden, the beautiful burden of serving others. That's the core of being a leader. You have been literally gifted the beautiful burden of serving others. And here we enter into a discussion about authentic and servant leadership. And if you really understand what that is and what it stands for, it's about us using our roles and the powers and authorities that come with it to look outside of ourselves and see what can we do for the society, what can we do for the stakeholders, what can we do for each other. And we're hoping that everyone else around us is at that place or soon to come to that space so that when they look at me, they're going to be looking out for me. So I don't need to worry about myself numero uno all the time. Of course, you're going to look out for yourself. It's just a natural, organic survival thing that we all have within us, but you don't have to be anchored in that space. That something has happened here in the business. I need to make sure I look good. And if that means I need to get creative, I need to go and disfigure tact and call it tact, but what it really is a form of dishonesty to make me look good. Once we start dabbling with that, understand what you're doing. Understand that you are eroding the trust equity that has been, given to you by persons who want you to show up and serve, right? It's not about using your position to get all that you can get. We have seen historically throughout history, and I'm talking about the thousands of years of history, what happens with those stories all the time. I don't know why we think if we do it now in today's world, the outcome is going to be different. It's not, right? So how about we take the learnings from things like Lehman Brothers and Theranos and, the other companies that have, had to deal with corporate governance fallout. How about we take those lessons and we ask ourselves, are we doing this right? Do we have the right approach? Do we have, an authentic journey? Is governance built into our operations? Is it built into our strategy? Is it built into our tactical application? Those are the questions we need to ask. And then face the answers. Just face the answers and then pivot or transform or evolve.
But Gail, I am wondering if your travels have really contributed to this mindset you have. Because the reality is it's so different from a lot of what we encounter in the region. And that is our problem. The culture we have of not wanting to understand the need as a collective to serve each other, but rather we are always looking at how we can get what we can out of the small pie which exists.
Right.
So not only have you traveled widely, but you also spoke about being in so many different roles, which would have given you different perspectives to understand that the world is not black and white, but it's a kaleidoscope.
Yes.
And every color has its own uniqueness and beauty. So and that is what I'm hearing from you. Something you also mentioned when you spoke a little bit about yourself was being mentored. So share with us some of your experience, which you think would have helped mold this wonderful worldview with which you have.
Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna start off with your last point, to just acknowledge my mentors. I have been so fortunate to have amazing human beings show up in my space. And again, the list is not exhaustive, but persons such as Fennec Reed, Carl Seymour, who has since passed on, David Mohan. I have just down to my brother. I have just had persons show up in a way in my life that challenged me to move past what I experienced early in my career, which was imposter syndrome. I mean, it's no secret to those who know me and have interacted with me. I did not come from a privileged background. And I think I limited what my experiences could be until I came across these persons who were like, we see something in you. We would like to create opportunities for you. And it was that creation, and it's how they would language to me. They would language to me almost like, well, the grass is green and you're gonna succeed. Both things are just facts. You just need to get there, right? Because we already see it. There was no space for me to doubt myself. And in those moments of doubt, I was able to go to them, admit that I had a fear or a concern, and then they would have a conversation with me. And I didn't realize that what they were doing is having me figure out my way out of corners and crevices. So when I started to get the opportunity to go to the other countries within the Caribbean, the CARICOM basin, and just travel, just for vacation outside to Europe and and North America and those other places. And I think one of the stories that for some reason people love to hear me talk about is when I went to spend time with the Wara who tribe in the Amazon basin, right? So I think just giving myself those opportunities to see the world from different levels, because I definitely started from very, very humble beginnings, which I own and I accept. And I love that I started there because it gives me a worldview that I would not have had otherwise. And then I was able to sit at, seats that where, I was a director. I was able to sit on boards. I was able to be a senior leader and an executive. I was able to be a mom. All of these things, they come into this cornucopia of opportunities to learn and grow and to evolve. And yes, the travels did help a lot, because when you take yourself out of the bubble of the country you're in, you end up working with persons that may or may not look like you, may or may not have perspectives on gender roles in leadership positions, um, who may have come from different organizational and nationalistic perspectives. And I think the third thing that really carved out and continues to carve out how I think and how I evolve in my thinking is that I was always told not to paint myself into a corner. So yes, I started in administrative management and went into occupational health and safety for quite some time. But I was always told, you're capable of more, and don't brand yourself as just an HSE person, which led to me becoming an org psychologist, which led to me becoming a change manager and a risk manager and a consultant and a trainer and an auditor and a business person and somebody who champions business excellence. I think that I can find governance in each of those experiences, even the simple ones, even the things that took place at home. There's a way to apply governance in your private life. There's a way to apply governance, when you step out to serve others. So I do think that it's an ongoing journey. I look forward, unlike a lot of people, I look forward to where I will be in 20 years' time if I'm afforded that space and that gift of life, because I know that there's a lot more knowledge out there. There's people like yourself and the other persons that have been given the opportunity to have a platform during, Governance Week. Interacting with persons like that, it's an opportunity for me to continue growing and evolving and learning and sharing what I know. So I think that once you accept that you are a student of life and you don't have the mentality that I have arrived, I have these letters behind my name and these titles on my CV, once you approach your opportunities with humility, but with an excitement and a hunger to learn, and to not just learn from a greed perspective, but to take that learning, turn it into wisdom and offer it back out. I think that is where the beauty of the journey is. I think that's what matters.
I find it very inspiring, Gail.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, and in a sense, it leads nicely into our theme for Governance Week, which is regenerative capitalism.
Yes.
It's how do we really look at our social impact? How do we embrace the triple bottom line of people and planet along with profit?
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to have that conversation at times with persons that they need to truly understand, put in resources, taking risk in that direction, and not just looking at how do you make more revenue?
Oh no, I don't find it difficult at all. I enjoy having those conversations. I I don't get disenchanted or disillusioned just because someone may not be on the same page as me. I think it's an opportunity to have a dialogue to find out the why behind their thinking. It's one of the reasons I love, the school of psychology, because you and I could be looking at the same thing and seeing something completely different. So, but the thing about regenerative capitalism is that, yes, it advocates for the economic systems that restore and regenerate, your social and your natural systems. But here's the beauty about that concept. It is rooted in tribal cultures. As much as we want to make it very elevated to the business and corporate level now, the fact is, if we look at how most tribal cultures worked in synergy with their environment, there was not a lot of active greed. I'm not saying that it didn't flare its head now and again, right? Because people are people. But
Yeah.
generally, you saw a lot of tribes, native tribes, living in beautiful harmony with their environment, understanding their role, understanding how they served, protecting, not taking more than what they needed, and replenishing, right? It was organic. When we started to strip away those tribal nations, right? And we got into this mindset as a human collective of, well, I see that this over there and I want it. I'm going to go get it and take it, and it's going to benefit me and my family and whoever I apply cronyism or nepotism or all the other isms to. That's when we started to see a breakdown of the things that we're now trying to hold the reins and get control of, right? We have journeyed way too close to the sun, and now we're confused as to why our wings are melting, right? We should have used the sun, kept a distance, and used it for what it was intended to do, to replenish, to nourish, to regenerate, but we decided we wanted to own the sun. So now we're standing in a place of weird confusion as to why is there so much breaches in government and governance? Why is there such political upheaval? Why is there so much white collar crime? Why is our business that could be twice as profitable if we do the right thing, right? Why are we satisfied once we're getting what we can get for us in our pocket? So I think we need to realize that this concept of regenerative capitalism, it isn't as new and it isn't as complicated as persons may try to think it to be. We just need to return to what the rest of the animal kingdom is doing, which is understanding the beauty of balance. And we need to stop aiming for net zero. We need to aim for net positive. What can we leave that leaves more for the generations to come, right? How can we reconnect them back to the earth and the elements? How can we show them that, yes, it's okay if you want to live in comfort, but you don't have to damage or abuse your surroundings and others in order to get there. It really is that mentality is so short-lived, and the rewards for it are so short-lived. So I think that I love the concept and I love the theme of Governance Week, because it's bringing this conversation to a level and across the Caribbean in a way that it needs to be. It needs to be multiplied and echoed. And I'm so glad that your forum is using it to kick off that conversation in a very powerful way.
Yes, because if we can follow the thread, as you have said, if we can weave a different tapestry, we will be able to embrace the next step of it, which is promoting exceptional governance for our small states.
Yeah.
And if we get the governance systems right and we can fix our mindset, then this region can truly flourish in ways that allows us to feel so happy and comfortable with where we live and where we grow our families. And for me, that's the objective, trying to get us all into a space where we are making decisions, to quote you, with this collective responsibility to take care of each other, so that everyone can grow and enjoy what we have here and leave it for generations to come.
Yeah, and I do think that, we need to be very mindful of the power of words. So it's something, and I'm about to say something that may not be popular, but, here we are. I think that sometimes people start off with the right intention and they want a positive outcome, but we have to be mindful of what we're setting up. So for me, I am someone who cringes every time I see advertisement for a role that says a compliance officer, right? And I'll tell you why. And again, the person's creating those roles, I know that they are thinking that this is a good thing to do, that we have to journey towards compliance. But here's the thing about compliance, right? You may not see it today, you may not see it tomorrow, but eventually, what compliance does is that it creates a divorce
Yes, it's someone
between
else's responsibility now.
between compliance and excellence. Because if I'm compliant with the law, if I'm compliant with the standards, then I've made it, I've achieved it, I've hit my mark. It breeds mediocrity. And I think that we have to start realizing that the older models, we need to get innovative and transformative. So what if we take that group compliance officer and we change it to group governance officer or group excellence officer? All of a sudden, you're opening new worlds. You're changing the languaging of this person's portfolio so that what they're doing, they're not chasing the latest version of a standard. What they're doing is they're looking at the standard and making that their baseline, but they're aiming for excellence. And I think that's one of the things we have to think about, because we have to understand the power of words, right? How it can expand or how it can limit how you view and value yourself. And again, I'm not going after any of the compliance people. Thank you so much for your service. Excellent. But at the end of the day, would you not want to have within your title the promise of continuously improving and going beyond compliance and journeying towards commitment, journeying towards excellence, journeying towards exceptional governance? That alone gives you something to get up and want to, it makes you want to stalk success, you know? So
I like that. And what you said earlier in terms of sometimes, we start off with good intentions. I was looking at a video recently on the contribution of Jack Welch. Now, there are those who love him, and then there are those who don't. And
correct.
this particular video really sought to demonstrate that what had started off possibly with good intentions really led to the ruin of what was an excellent organization that focused on innovation and creativity and really influenced an entire generation of senior leaders across corporate America to focus on the wrong things.
Yeah.
That has
It,
led
it,
them to where they're at.
it's an excellent example you gave, because I think it shows how, if we assume that, sorry, if we assume that Mr. Welch started off with the best of intentions, enough time in a power position where you are lauded as the pioneer, it's hard to give that up.
Yes,
So
that's true.
I think towards the end of his career, the succession planning, he viewed it as a threat.
Mhm.
And that's where the damage happened.
Well, that along with if we follow the logic of what was shared in that particular video, that his actual start was flawed from the beginning because the start of his re-engineering of GE meant getting rid of a lot of people because he wanted to be lean. But a lot of those people who now became jobless were people who were ensuring that things like quality were focused on, who were those middle managers that were ensuring that they protect the brand and the way in which things were done. And so without him understanding that, he was seeing the profitability where once you get rid of these additions, then you are able to be lean. So I think that meant no matter what he would have done later on or who came after him, the foundation was already shaky. And so we would have seen, and in a way, maybe it's karma. He was there. He was still alive to witness the entire collapse of that whole structure, which is it is sad though, but it's an important lesson for us to
It is.
always be mindful and guard against our own intentions because we may start off, but then it seems to be so easy to get trapped in your success.
Yes, it is. And I think you make a very powerful point in terms of middle managers and how undervalued they are. I often refer to them as the lost tribe, right? The thing is, we have to step away from, again, the languaging of support roles and the roles that actually bring in the revenue. And for some reason, the support roles are viewed as less valuable. But here's the thing, if you do case studies on the failures of what used to be powerful entities and organizations, you know where the failings tended to happen when we weren't taking care of those supportive elements, when we weren't looking after our people, when we weren't engaging them and inspiring them and motivating them and properly rewarding them using the right, parameters to do so. I think persons just need to give themselves the opportunity to research, to edify themselves, and to understand and appreciate what caused the downfall of something. And it's not about a failure in terms of the profitability flow. It's decisions made. It's the temptation to not show up and be in alignment with proper governance. So I think that the roles that hold governance accountable, like HSC, BCP, quality, HR, these are roles that are often siloed, and we don't look at it as a holistic business excellence model, which is something else I champion a lot. Because when you have HSC being handled over there, and governance being handled by the lawyers over there, and BCP by somebody in another department somewhere over there, and they hardly speak to each other, there's no guiding strategy to say, well, if you put in, it's pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, right? So if I have a piece and you have a piece and we come together, we're going to see the big picture eventually. But if I'm holding my piece close to my chest and I'm running to the left and you're on a rocket ship going somewhere, then we're never going to get it together. So I think that, again, there are certain systems that worked for a period of time. We need to realize that those systems may have value in terms of the wisdom they've imparted to us, but we need to release them and step into new systems that make sense for what we have to face today. So something else I talk about quite often, and it's the foundation for the core values of my organization, is the concept of Sankofa. Sankofa is a Ghanaian principle that basically, in summary, says you take from the past what is valuable and what carries wisdom, but you face forward to the future and you head towards the promise of what lays ahead, guarding the wisdom as you go with it. So we're not saying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What we are saying is, let us learn, let us take those lessons, let us take those wisdom pieces, but let us have our eyes and ears open and our hands free to grasp what is in front of us. So as we start this conversation officially with Governance Week on regenerative capitalism, I really hope that it sparks persons to think about. So I just mentioned that this is rooted in tribal nations. So we're taking that wisdom from the past and we're trying to apply it into this global citizenry network that we have now. And you know what? It can fit. It actually can. We just have to be able to see it and not be so attached to what we've been doing for the last 15 years, for the last 20 years. Well, this is what I know how to do it. Well, it's not quite working, right? So let's figure out how to bring all of the concepts that we've been talking about for the last few years, the sustainable development goals, the enterprise risk management, the environmental, social, and governance, ESG. Everybody's all abuzz about these things. You can bring those things together under the umbrella of business excellence and figure out how to speak the same language to all of your people and give persons roles that they're passionate about and they're qualified to do. And we can actually see governance take root and not just be this abstract thing that we talk about at the board level, but the janitor has no idea what you're talking about. And your intern has no idea what looks like governance, because that's 5 pay grades up. Once we realize that we have an operation like that, we have work to do. We simply have work to do.
Thank you so much, Gail. So we have crossed the half-hour mark, but this has been such a fascinating conversation. Before I come back to you first to do some closing remarks, I want to invite everyone again, visit our website and register for Governance Week, which is coming up. It's an online event. You are going to be able to sit from the comfort of your space wherever you are to be a part of it. I want to thank our sponsors for Governance Week, we have 2 gold sponsors, First Citizens Bank and Massey Group. We also have 5 bronze sponsors. I'm very happy to share Angostura Limited, Republic Bank, NGC, PwC, and GA Rowe and Sons from Belize. So we are thankful for all of our sponsors who are helping us to be able to manage this process so that we can have an excellent governance week. And of course, our opening keynote will be delivered by Professor John Elkington, who conceptualized this whole term of the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit, which Gail has so nicely helped us to make the link to what originally was the way in which things were done with tribal nations and so. Gail, part of what you shared with us earlier when we spoke about the persons who would have contributed to your not just your life, but your way of thinking, those persons who would have mentored you. I was so happy that among them, you mentioned your brother. And I think it's important for us to note we don't need big names to be our mentors. We don't need to go after persons who we think, oh, that is going to be an excellent. It starts with you and the relationship you have with the people closest to you, because they, I think, are the ones who would be most honest in helping you to see yourself, but also being supportive so that, as you say, you have never had to look after yourself to say, okay, this is me. I'm building myself for my agenda, because there are people around you who would help you to be able to achieve your goal. So you can look at a much broader picture in terms of how can we serve each other as a collective. That's what, if we can achieve that, it's going to be a whole different change of culture and how we achieve things.
I
So Gail, I
agree.
want to wish you so much success with your consultancy and the work you do. I'm so excited to have you come in for Governance Week. And I know that is not going to be the only conversation we have just from today. Just be warned, the people will tell you. Once we
That's not
connect,
a problem.
I'll be coming again.
Uh, Thank you so much for having me, Kamla. I really enjoyed this conversation. It felt very organic. Um, and I think that at the end of the day, the opportunity to share and to also garner, I look forward to all of these speakers that you have lined up. I know that they bring their own beautiful and powerful perspectives as well. So I know that that week is going to be an opportunity for me to expand my knowledge base. And for that, I'm grateful. So thank you, and thank you to the Institute for conceptualizing the opportunity to create that for Governance Week.
You're most welcome, Gail, and thank you too. So thank you, everyone. This brings our live to an end. We appreciate you joining us. It will be posted on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Tomorrow, we come back with another live at 11 a.m. as we continue our discussions leading up to Governance Week 2024. Thank you and have a wonderful day.